We just got done doing all the plumbing underneath, all the drain lines, but we're gonna start on
Pex.
supply lines. Yeah. So we're gonna use
Yeah.
Pex for all of our supply lines. We're using Pex-A, which is an expansion. So it takes an expansion fitting, which means you actually expand the Pex and then put it around the fitting and it shrinks down over it. So we're gonna use that for everything. So what we're gonna do is go through, run all of the 1/2-inch lines for the upstairs bathroom to where they meet, and then run all the 3/4-inch lines for the upstairs bathroom, and then just work our way around the house doing 1/2-inch and then 3/4-inch. We started up in the upstairs bathroom. We started running all of the supply lines through the floor and walls into where their final resting place was going to go. These are all the supply lines for the toilet and then the shower. In the shower upstairs, we're actually going to have 2 shower heads. So we need 3 colds coming out of that wall, 1 for the toilet, 2 for the showers, and then 2 hots, 1 for each side of the shower. Is it still going? Okay, do you want me to check what's down there?
Do it a little more.
That was the easiest thing I've ever cut before. So there are a couple of reasons we went with PEX instead of running copper, or that's really the only other option there is. I guess there's like CPVC, which is basically a PVC made for drinking water. But for copper, we would have had to make 90-degree bends everywhere with the fitting, and we also would have had to solder everything together. And honestly, doing the PEX is a lot easier than soldering. There's a lot less joints in the wall that can leak and so on like that. So for someone who's doing it yourself, maybe you have a remodel or maybe you're building your own home or tiny house, PEX is definitely the way to go. Like I talked about a little earlier, there's a couple different types of PEX. There's actually 3, Pex-A, Pex-B, and Pex-C. I have no idea what Pex-C is, but Pex-A is made, as I talked about, for the expansion fittings, and then Pex-B is for all the crimp rings. So if you're going to have crimp rings, you have to use Pex-B, and if you're going to do the expansion fittings, you have to use Pex-A. The reasoning behind that is because Pex-A always wants to return to its initial shape, which is why the expansion works, is because you expand it briefly and then it always wants to return back to its initial size, so it's always squeezing down on those fittings. Pex-B has memory to it, so when you crimp it, you're crimping down on it, it will hold that memory, where if you tried to crimp Pex-A, the A would always be pushing up against that crimp ring or whatever you're using to crimp it down on that fitting, always trying to break away from that crimp ring. So you have to use the Pex-B for the crimping and the Pex-A for the expansion.
Okay, it's there. And you're there. You're there. Okay. Yeah, you can take it back.
Take it back?
Yeah, to there.
There?
A little less. Yeah.
After running all of the 1/2-inch lines for the upstairs, we then moved to the downstairs bathroom. So this is us putting in the 1/2-inch lines that go to the sink, the toilet, and then the tub shower that we're going to have in the downstairs bathroom.
Cool.
After that downstairs bathroom, we then moved to the laundry room. The final thing we had to run water to downstairs was the kitchen. We're not doing a dishwasher or a ice hookup for the fridge, and honestly, using PEX, adding systems like that is so easy, being able to get into the crawl space, that we're just not worried about it. Come on, get down. Come on.
Hot or cold first? Hold on. Whoa. Can you take it back some? Okay, now go. Okay, oh god.
That good? How much?
Hold on. Okay. Now go.
What?
Go. Yeah, that's good. Okay, yeah. Good.
Good?
Yeah.
So, like I've talked about before, we're using Pex-A. And one of the things about Pex-A is it's expansion Pex, meaning that you don't crimp rings onto the fittings. You actually use a tool to expand it, and then you slip it over the fittings. And one of the things that does is it keeps the inside diameter of the pipe the same as the inside diameter of the fitting, so when water's going through a fitting, you're not constricting the water down even further. You have these sleeves that go over it. They have a little stop on them. We'll put one on each. Perfect. And then for ½ inch, you do 4 to 5 times, and you want the pipe to be seated all the way down to this shoulder right here. Put it in, expand it, put it in further, expand it. 3, 4, and then we'll unexpand it, take it, and shove it all the way onto our fittings. And we'll hold it there for a second so it grabs, but that's it. It should slowly constrict around this fitting. This little sleeve I think is just to give it extra strength because it's basically a little tiny piece of Pex-A. So, like even now, like they're tight, so yeah. So there's a couple ways you can plumb a house. There are a couple different system designs. One of them is called a manifold, where you have home runs for each of your plumbing fixtures. So each faucet gets its own hot and cold home run to a big manifold that has a bunch of outputs on it. The way we did it was kind of like a branch system, which is where you have a main 3/4 inch line that branches off to all of the different household items that you have. Except when we got to the bathrooms, we used manifolds for that. So the upstairs bathroom hot has a manifold and the cold has a manifold, as well as the downstairs bathroom hot and cold both has manifolds too.
Go.
I can't see against my fuck. God damn it. Oh my god. I shook down from the other side. Okay, come on. Abort. One. Thank you. More time. Re-expand. Okay, perfect. Doesn't it?
Ta-da! Ta-da! Yikes.
All of our wires come out, all of the stuff comes out through there, and then our hots connect there. The colds all connect here, and we have one that comes out into a plug because we're not using 5, we're using 4. What we will do is we'll put insulation around the hots and the colds probably, just to keep them a little more separated since they are very close together. The next thing we did is secured all the stub outs for all our hot and cold lines. You can get PEX to copper stub outs. That way maybe your plumber is a little more familiar with how to like attach a valve to a copper stub out. So you can get just copper stub outs, like I said, that attach to PEX. However, since we're doing it all ourselves, we just use these like 90-degree support bends. So what it does is you put the PEX through that hole, tighten down that purple ring, and then that 90-degree bend or curve in the white part of the plastic supports the PEX. That way the PEX doesn't kink or anything. And then you just screw that to the wall, and then your stub out won't move, and you can't push your PEX back into the wall accidentally. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So as easy as PEX is to run all around your house, using that manual tool was pretty hard in the crawl space where it was all over my head. It's not an easy motion to make, and you have to put quite a bit of force in it to expand that 3/4 inch PEX just because the wall is so thick. However, if you didn't want to use all that effort to expand it, they do make like electric PEX expanders. DeWalt and Milwaukee have some. They're just like $400 and not worth it if you're only doing a small project like we are. However, otherwise, I think this is a pretty bulletproof method to plumbing a house. And then these are the 2 manifolds that we used for our downstairs bathroom. So the next pipe you're going to see us putting in is known as like a hot water loop. So it goes from the T of where the cold water will go into the hot water heater, and that's just going to make a loop around to where the hot water will enter the system. And that way when we pressurize the system, we only have to pressurize it in one spot, and that loop will link the hot and the cold together. We come in from our hot 3/4, we go to our little manifold. We're not using these 2, and then bathtub, sink. Same thing with our cold. We go in, toilet, bathtub, sink. We're not using that last one. But that's all of it down here. On this side, this is where our hot, it's gonna come from our hot water heater, or this is our cold, so this is what come from the pressure tank. And then this is our hot, so we'll go to the hot water heater. We're coming out from 3/4 inch to 1/2 inch to go to our laundry machines. We come down, and this is where it breaks to go to upstairs. And then all the way down there is the sinks. So that's the hot, we just have an elbow on it. And then for the cold, we'll come out with 1/2 inch, go all the way and go to the sink, which we haven't done. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this gave you an idea of how we ran the supply lines for our house using Pex-A. Like I said, I think it's a really bomb-proof system, and it's a lot easier than using copper or CPVC, where you have a lot more joints, a lot more fittings, and you kind of have to like be a plumber when using copper because you have to solder everything together, and it's just a lot harder in my mind. So hopefully you like this. Make sure to give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you want to see more.